Good day, everybody. Brian here, quantlabs.net. It is March 29th, 2:47 Eastern Standard Time. In this video, I want to go over some very, I'm just amazed at what they're proposing as laws. First, we're going to go over a new act called the Restrict Act. It's very scary what they're proposing. Just to propose it in itself is very scary. Next, we're going to talk about the impact of what the EU is imposing. You can see here limiting people that use anonymous wallets with €1,000 limit. That's now been voted in. Also, you can see here, I'm going to reveal now, this is the really more scary one for the EU market or people living in the EU. Smart contract Killswitch. Okay. And then the impact of all of this on the US dollar. There's another event here. This is another one. I'll do this in a separate video. Saudi Arabia moves closer to joining Chinese security club. Well, let's get into the crypto with these laws. Okay, so a lot of these laws being pointed called the Restrict Act. Let me just pull up the article here. Now, okay, so this is it. So this is found on Reddit. Let me pull up the original article so we can go through that. This act creates, now this again is found, as you can see here, coincenter.org. Restrict Act creates blanket authority with few checks to ban just about anything linked to a foreign adversary. Overbroad attempt to ban crypto using these new powers would be open to a court challenge, but the law has worryingly narrow avenues for review. So these are your friends now. Remember, Senator Warren and Toon aims to block or disrupt transactions or financial holding involving foreign adversaries to pose risk to national security. Primary targets are TikTok. Language of the bill could potentially be used to block or disrupt crypto transactions. In cases blocking Americans' access to open source tools or protocols like Bitcoin. So this is absolutely everything out there under the sun when it comes to BISQ network. Okay, that's an open source decentral exchange. DYDX, on and on it goes. This stems from similarities with the OFAC regime. Act creates a regime parallel to OFAC, whatever that is, and that doesn't matter. Significantly limits the ability of injured parties to challenge actions against raising due process concerns like OF and lack of carve. Um, so you get the idea of what this is. I'm not going to go. So this is concerning the Restrict Act, directs Secretary of Commerce. So this is commerce, and they're restricting your access to certain technologies. This is beyond ridiculous. A foreign adversary has an interest, would not object that power being used narrowly with regard to any particular Bitcoin transaction involving a specific recipient. We would, however, object to overbroad interpretation and interest wherein the secretary attempted to argue that the entire class of all Bitcoin transactions, for example, is a class of transactions in which US foreign adversaries uh, have an interest. If such an unreasonable and overbroad interpretation of the Restrict Act was made, we'd be fighting in court, just like we are fighting the tornado cash designation by OFAC. We'd rather not have broad and abuse-prone powers being wielded somewhat redundantly by the Secretary, Commerce Sector, or OFAC. Why? And it's not clear. Blah 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 blah. Okay, so going back to Reddit, which can be useful and really not that useful. Um, so they're targeting here TikTok, but I mean, if you're 5 or 13, yeah, you may care about TikTok, but generally, um, most people lives will not matter if they don't have access to TikTok because they ain't using it. Any reasonable minded person would be like that. Um, CBDCs will come next, and they want to kill its alternatives. So that's Bitcoin and crypto basically. Um, okay, so the restrict aims to block or disrupt transaction and financial holdings involving foreign adversaries that pose risk to national security. It's just like, hi, I'm from the government. I'm here to help with our global sickness and the medicine we all had to take. Well, those that took it. Coin Center is concerned about overbroad interpretation of these powers could be exploited in order to ban Americans from using entire classes of technology when no foreign has actual proprietary interest. Um, okay, so I'm going to move on to the next article. There's just so many of these. I'm going to list these on my blog. So this one here, this is now from Bitcoin Insider. So Restrict Act proposes 20. This is the problem. 20-year jail term. This is what got my attention. 20-year jail term for US citizens accessing banned apps. Meanwhile, you got people rioting in the streets, burning down buildings, and they get away scotch free. Um, okay. The proposed bill would give the US government more power to force the sale of foreign owned apps to US companies. Okay, I mean, but they're intermingling crypto with it. Could also see American citizens face up to 20 years in jail and a $250,000 fine for accessing banned apps and quotes using virtual private networks. Minimum 20 sentence for using a VPN banned app. Okay. Um, so this would have a profound impact on the crypto industry, and now it's becoming the friendly way of saying digital assets for making payments and storing value. Government's ability to monitor and control access to digital payment apps and could devastate crypto. Uh, Bill does not explicitly define what constitutes a banned app. It could be a cold brush against cold wallets. Well, we know about those, the ledgers and the trezors, and other crypto related services. Legislation would give the US government sweeping powers to crack down on any technology and services as a threat of national security, including VPN. Think about it. When you look at Japan, or sorry, in China, the Great uh, China Firewall, that's another way of saying this is now being implemented for the US. And now it's being implemented in the US. The rest of the world, Western countries will most likely do the same. Okay, so crackdown on privacy. Privacy have warned that restrict that would eradicate any semblance of digital privacy in the US, with significant implications for individual freedoms and civil liberties. If passed, the bill will grant the government absolute power over any technology it serves and services it sees as a threat. And look at this, including decentralized technology. That's how overreaching this is. Recent crisis in the bank the bill passed could present challenges to crypto, which relies on digital privacy and anonymity to function effectively. So now I'm just repeating messages here. I'm giving my opinion, of course. 400 representatives voted for the bill, approving a $250,000 fine for using VPN access to from such countries as China, Hong Kong, South Korea, Russia, or any other country has long-term pattern or serious instances of adverse to the U.S. Uh, and here we know who that is. Most based and important vote yet. One of 7 no votes. Shocking. Um, okay, so there's that article there. Let's go to the next one. Um, Now, okay, so just so you know, I'm going to bring up Nigeria now, and this is a very similar situation. This is just a more advanced story. So Nigeria is introducing their e-Naira, their CBDC, called e-Naira, and they've had riots about it. They're forcing people on it. People are now relenting and just starting to pretty well mass adopt this CBDC in Nigeria. So as you can see, Cointelegraph.com, Nigeria crypto investors question central bank's decision to flag peer-to-peer users. So if you're using peer-to-peer, you will be flagged. Flagged for what? Uh, Crypto peer-to-peer users, P2P, worry over various platforms to launder funds as the country's central bank cracks down on bank accounts that receive a share of Flutterwave rumored stolen funds. Okay, I'm not arguing we want to be about fraud or money laundering, but yet you look at Deutsche Bank, Credit Suisse, in the fiat world, the banks that are on verge of collapsing or have collapsed, they're all based on fraud. Some of them probably are the largest money launderers on the planet. Um, and again, look it up. So Nigeria crypto users have expressed concerns about the central bank CBN flagging their bank accounts. Now, I'm in Canada, so I know near and dear where people's accounts are getting flagged and actually deplatformed. And just look at our trucker convoy that happened. And for those that want to know if I'm wearing a Trump hat, you can see there, trade like a boss, so relax. According to local news, legal counsel for Flutterwave. Okay, so there's some Flutterwave hack. I don't know what that is. Nigerian fintech company allegedly reported a case to the police. Yaba Lagos, blah, 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 has been illegally transferred from the accounts, his client said. Um, so the accounts have been frozen. The situation has gone on to discourage peer to peer users from interacting with the various over counter markets that allow trading of securities between two counterparties outside of formal exchanges without supervision of the exchange regulator. So that means if I'm sitting on a blockchain and I'm going to transfer you money on a blockchain directly with no third party regulator overseeing it or third party person or AI, whatever system, see that and flag it. This is what they're talking about. And remember, when you're on peer to peer or blockchain, there's very minimal costs. As I put up a video yesterday, ECB president or chairperson Christine Lagarde expressed concern about that. Markets that trading of securities between two counterparties executed outside of formal exchanges without supervision, as the hack sum flowed into Nigeria crypto market on different OTCs, and users have problems with financial intermediaries when they want to use P2P for crypto transfer. And crypto transfer is the same thing as if it's earned via fiat or earned via crypto. It's just cash. It's money. It doesn't matter if it's based on the fiat or crypto. Investors World P2P is medium direct exchange of crypto between parties. May choose to swap cryptos for crypto or crypto cash. CBN announced a regulation that prevented financial like banks from enabling crypto use. Ooh, very interesting there. More harm than good. Nigerian crypto users in disbelief over CBN ban. When was that came out? February 13th, 2021. Wow. So this is basically banning crypto connection, I guess. Uh, Nigerians were able to find a way forward and still maintain leading position as the largest crypto hub of Africa through the use of these P2P platforms. Um, so this Flutterwave looks like it's Nigerian, stolen funds. Uh, I don't know. This is a hard one to get around, but this is what the West is trying to introduce, and I'm going to show you what ECB is doing, the EU, financial system known as SIDI, black market hub for scammers laundering fraud funds. Uh, Denied the hack, saying it was identified as usual. Okay, blah 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 blah. Okay, so that's Nigeria. All right, so now the EU had a series of votes yesterday. And what were those pertaining to? Let's go into those. Okay, European lawmakers impose $1,000 limit on unverified crypto users. So if you're using a ledger, I've looked into, you can with Python programming able to work directly on the blockchain. If it's Ethereum, believe also with Bitcoin, you can easily interact, create dynamic wallets with some kind of program that you create through an API and be able to create digital unverified crypto user wallets. So that's just one example of how you do that. European government's still working on its regulatory approach towards crypto regulation. So notice here it says European government, European Union, one government where each member country in the European government is like a state, no different than a state within the US. That's how I'm interpreting this. Part of the body, which is law, have earlier today published a new ruling. Crypto users with unverified identities. So again, that's like using something as similar as a ledger device. Past wasn't solely aimed at crypto specifically. Yeah, okay. But the act of money laundering or anonymously holding or transacting digital assets. The announcements read new measures against money laundering and terrorist financing. So if you're an honest person, already paid tax on what you earned, you put it into crypto, now you're getting lumped in with money laundering and terrorist financing. That's how extreme things are getting, right? Um, so of course it goes against economic civil liberties on new measures of money laundering, anti-money laundering, and terrorist financing regulation, including the new law to impound €1,000 crypto users with unverified identities. I have no idea how they're going to regulate this, uh, or enforce it, I should say. They will be required that their customers' identities. So if you're going to work with football clubs, virtual estate agents, da da da, you got to be registered, what they own, and who controls the company. Actually, England's doing that as well with the big house real estate in the UK. When you want to buy a home as a foreigner, you got to reveal who you are, what they own, and who controls what, and they can do a due diligence on you. So they're kind of doing that with real estate in specifically in the London housing market. Kind of makes sense, right? Um, Money laundering, right? Not good. Will also have to establish detailed types of risk of money laundering and terrorist financing in their sector of activity and transmit the relevant information to a central register. Where have I seen that before? Um, it's amazing the world we're moving into. Besides the imposed 100 euro limit, or is it €1,000? I don't know. Euro Parliament also expresses €7,000 on cash payment for transactions in the same category of unverified users, crypto users. These are limits are part of the EU plan to revamp its AML regulations. Uh, French lawmaker leading the parliament negotiations on revamping AML. I have no idea why it's always French doing this. Law is not to ban crypto payments, but to target money laundering, as the limit cap only applies to unregulated wallets and unverified users. That could go many ways. 99 lawmakers voting in favor of the new plan, and 6 abstentions. Abstentions. the EU created a new EU anti-money laundering agency. It's just like one regulator and another regulator. Like in the States now, they're mentioning about the regulator has to, or a watchdog to watch the regulator because of the Silicon Valley Bank uh, collapse. It's this is not democracy anymore. This is not free flowing capital markets. It's all about control. And we all honest people get lumped into it for monitoring risk and threats within and outside the EU. Outside the EU now, so they want to overreach there. Agencies would be used to direct, supervise some specific credit and financial institutes and classify them according to their risk level. Um, the MLA will receive whistleblower complaints and ensure stronger oversight of the supervisors in non-financial. Yes, it is these whistleblowers who will. It's like what is hate speech? What is misinformation? Who's defining that? Um, it's so vague, right? Global cryptocurrency has maintained composure despite the U.S. financial suffering a crisis in recent weeks. All right, so um, crypto market up 1.5 and valued at now 1.18. And its peak for crypto, it was at 2 trillion. So it's good that it's moving up. Okay, that's some scary stuff there. Um, uh, okay, so we read that one. Okay, so this one I think is the more dangerous here because this is now the kill switch. EU smart contract kill switch mandate won't kill crypto. All right, so kill switches are the ultimate way to cut you off from the internet as well. So if you speak and you're looked upon as a dissenter, you will lose your internet access. You will not be allowed to have internet. So they kill switch your internet. That will be the next probably big move for a lot of people. EU is moving towards regulation that will fundamentally change crypto markets, can how crypto projects, those are all the altcoins out there, can operate, but decentralized be so decentralization is still possible. So when you have a regulator or a central body kind of regulating that, that's really not deregulation anymore. So March 14th, new data controls to be included in a large bill address data without stifling innovation. So so-called stifling innovation. The new Data Act requires all smart to include a kill switch, all smart contracts. So now Ethereum, okay, uh, will have to have a new mechanism built into the blockchain to kill off a kill switch of that smart contract. Like I don't know what to tell you there. Administrators use the kill switch mechanism to shut off a device, a network, or software in the event of a security threat. Um, here's my response to that. If you're worried about your money, if that's what it really is about, don't be involved on these blockchains. Do not partake in these blockchains. But I will tell you, I've got another article coming on what will happen with the U.S. dollar, the collapse of it. But we'll look at that in detail in a minute. Um, so kill switch can either destroy the contract, deploy a halt, patch, and re-release of the contract in the case of a major bug or outreach or breach. Uh, intentional to give people more protection over their personal information. Okay, so again, safety. Let's backtrack when it came to the global sickness. When they first came out, it says we're gonna like put you in house LD, um, because and it's only gonna be 2 weeks. Here, uh, it's the light approach, but we know it's a step in the wrong direction because Um, it's for our safety, right? So the act has generated concerns in the Web3 community. Some fear a kill switch mandate will curb the decentralization, not curb it, it'll eliminate of smart contracts by giving one person or a group of people the power to shut down the operation. Wow. Okay, so when a decentralized exchange, OpDeFi, actually activated kill switch to its mainnet, leading to it being permanently shut down and losing $660,000 worth of stablecoins. Now, let me remind you of USDC. When you look at the Silicon Valley Bank collapse, Circle, who creates, manages, maintains, and owns this USDC stablecoin, they had 3.5 billion in that bank. So they collapsed. That stablecoin depegged against the US dollar all the way down to 70% of the value of what it should have not been. And it took them a good couple of days to have that recover. Okay. So um, it can get worse. And that was stemmed from the fiat world of a regulated bank, which wasn't really regulated because the regulator in San Francisco knew about the problems, but didn't act to prevent any of these collapses or bailouts. While this kill switch was not used in a smart contract setting, it sheds light on the risk that classic kill switches create for crypto related businesses and projects. Not just that, but it also is now kill switch to you and your internet connection and your ability to be able to have access to the internet in your country if you're a bad little person, whatever you do. I'm just like, again, I'm just giving you my opinion. Um, but this thing is just going down in reverse. It's not like going in, let's open stuff up. It's regulating and restricting your ability to do certain things with this crypto world. Activating kill switch in effect destroys a smart contract will essentially wipe out all value being held and shouldn't be used. What's the point of protecting consumers if you lose all value stored in a smart contract? It's like this. If you are in my case, you have a bank account, online banking, and you want to pay a vendor or a merchant. Let's say you are, I don't know, your property tax, and you tell the teller, it could be in a physical branch or it could be over the phone in a customer support, and they're going to ask you about your bill, and they have to find a way to identify that merchant bill to your account. So if there's a mistake done, and when you inadvertently want to pay your property tax and it goes to the wrong merchant because it's being coded up wrong according to your bank account, and let's say you want to pay $1,000 on your property tax bill, and that the bank had inadvertently pointed that to a wrong account, a wrong merchant, whatever, your $1,000 will go missing because now you're not being recorded at the other end of the city that your property tax has been paid. All but simply because of a bank screwed up on the merchant account on where that money was supposed to go. I personally don't set it up. I always let the bank do it because just for my own protection, if that merchant setup is screwed up, it's not on me. It's on a staff person at the bank, and then the bank will go, "Yeah, they screwed up. Our problem. We'll reverse it." That's what you hope, because if you do it yourself and you screw up, your money's gone. And I'm speaking from past experience. Um, Safeguarding decentralization, mostly because decentralization is a crucial safeguard of the community's assets. We have witnessed cyber criminals zeroing in on centralization for hacking purposes because of these points of centralization, give them access to more assets in one fell swoop. Look, I understand the scamming and all that going on. My dilemma here is it now, because of this small percentage of problems when it comes to a criminal element, which pretty well, if you look at all transactions, be it cash, Visa, credit card, whatever, 4% of all total transactions are roughly going to be 4 or 5% of criminal matters. So when you look at a whole thing, 95% are going to be honest, and now 5% of those total transactions are considered fraudulent, criminal, whatever. And because they're using that same logic, now they're saying that anyone using crypto is an automatic criminal or an automatic scammer. And now we're going to penalize the whole everybody so that they can't use this technology. They can't use basically crypto to do certain things with. And they're now introducing this kill switch. Um, Blockchain businesses, projects, protocols operating within the EU territory. How many billion people live there? Most important place to start to as to what kind of smart contract kill switches make the most sense for regulators. I could go on about this, but it's just not good news when you read this stuff. Um, and let me go over to our other article here. All right, so let me see here. Okay, so let's talk fiat world. Now, this article is from Forbes. Okay, so let's pull that up. So Forbes, worst case, worst scenario. I think this is hyperbolic, hyped up. Will the U.S. dollar collapse? Okay, let's read it. Key, currency collapses when a country's currency loses all its value and becomes practically worthless in day-to-day use. Think of Zimbabwe. Okay, it costs you 6 billion Zimbabwe, whatever, to buy a loaf of bread. That's what we're talking about. So if I go over to Market Watch and let's see here, Market Watch, and I put in DXY. Okay, let's see how the US dollar's been performing all year. So here, um, when you look at the overall performance, the DXY, which is the US dollar index, it's been fairly negative um, uh, for the last 3 months. Okay, we're pretty well at the end of March. So I'm not saying this will happen, but when you see a drop in dollar, I don't know, you can be concerned, I can be concerned, but other articles I'll post on YouTube will say otherwise. But a big concerning concerning um, uh, thought, with what's going on. So this is generally a result of political or economic upheaval, hyperinflation, or war. Hyperinflation, when you're at 10% for a year, uh, that's pretty high, especially for a country like US. And some of them were as high as way higher in the Europe, in the EU. So is it getting better or is it coming down? Yes, but the national debt's still there, $31 trillion, dollars, and that's usually what will cause this. Not common occurrence, but we've seen it happen before in various places around the world. As I said, Zimbabwe is a good extreme example of that, but these are smaller countries. Risks to be aware of, though likely it's fairly easy to protect yourself against it. Okay, so it's good to know, how do we protect ourselves against this? No, probably say buy gold. That's probably the solution, right? It's the lazy approach. US dollar would collapse its backing from the largest economy in the world, and its status and global reserve makes it highly unlikely. All right, so these happen to countries like Argentina, Venezuela, and Russia. Okay, so is it possible? And the US dollar, I put up the de-dollarization yesterday in the US dollar, and more countries are wanting out. Okay, they don't want to hold US dollar, they don't want to transact in dollar, and they don't want to be penalized from a sanction point of view, which could hurt their local economy. Um, I'm just trying to find anything useful in this article. Uh, okay, so they're gonna walk. We're gonna walk through. what could happen. Um, okay, here we go. So want to get exposure to assets outside as well within it. Okay, so there's this global trend kit. This is definitely an ad. Every week, our AI analyzes huge amounts and predicts how these assets are likely to perform. Um, okay, whatever. All right, so currency collapse makes you consider some money is a simple IOU from the government. Bail-ins, I guess. Used to be paper money, coins, and even numbers on a bank statement represent an amount of gold in reserve. Okay, so it's an IOU, and again, this is part of the bail-in process I've talked about, or you might hear about. Um, have no society value to believe that the U.S. has value. I know more and more people are becoming, I don't want to say, but the reality is more and more people are becoming anti-US. I know people that will not travel through the US when they go to Europe. I know people that don't want to use US technology anymore. Apple comes to mind from my point of view because of how, and I've just shown you new laws that are being brought out just for using a a not approved app, and you can go compare that to what sounds like China, and you get 20 years in prison for it and a $250,000 fine. So don't tell me that the U.S. is the freest country in the world. Obviously not, with these kind of laws being proposed. It doesn't matter if they become law or not. It's just that the problem is they become proposed. And what those proposals become over time become eventually mainstream and they eventually get voted in. It could take a year, it could take 5 years. I don't know. But it's an idea, and that's what turns it into something mainstream. That's how communism spreads. That's how Karl Marx spread and all the like. And same with Germany, the German Nazis in the 30s. Okay. So when you have an idea, it becomes more mainstream over time. Then eventually, and the classic example is when you get a monster like Hitler come to the into the public profile in the late 20s, and it took him 10 years to raise his profile to eventually become leader of Germany. And out of that came basically, we know what happened in World War II. And before that, in the 20s in Germany, there was the Weimar economy where Germany suffered greatly. And that's why people rallied behind the monster Hitler because he sounded like a hero. And he was great. He was a master of brainwashing. So I'm saying here that when you have these kind of laws come in as an idea, they grow. Look at what's going on with universities right now. Those are minds uh, being educated, and then they get some kind of degree, and they go into the corporate world, and then that's how we have what we have now. I don't know. So hyperinflation, $10 might buy you a case of Pepsi today. Tomorrow buys you only six. So we're already getting that already. In Canada, we call it just inflation because of Trudeau. Go figure that. But they call it small inflation. So you're paying $100 for something, and then tomorrow you pay half of the quantity for the same price. Small inflation. Um, so we've seen that of Zimbabwe, and I've mentioned that already. So it brings in political instability, which is very true. Look at the states right now. A lot of dissension, division, and actually leaders promoting that and promoting the hate between the other side. Not good. Um, high levels of debt. Okay, we know about that. I've already mentioned $31 trillion dollars relative to the strength of the underlying economy. So the economy suffers and teeters and wobbles. That's where we're at right now for most of the West. Okay, most Western countries are in that state. High level of debt and shrinking economy. This can cause a flight of assets, which is currently happening. I do believe that's one of the reasons why most likely the U.S. dollar is tanking. The currencies that are strengthening because of that is the Australian dollar and the Japanese yen. Okay, so that's why most likely they're strengthening because they're stable countries, uh, including trade imbalances. That's been going on for decades. China lost its status as a global reserve, so that's where the U.S. dollar is on that verge. And I'm going to put up a separate video on what will take the U.S. dollar reserve status to something else. And natural disasters or war. Okay, well, look at Russia and Ukraine. We know the headlines there. All of them relate to instability within a country. So obviously, this person wrote, obviously, the US in mind. And now I was going to give some examples, most likely. I haven't read this article yet. So, US dollar has a special place in the global financial system. It is the global reserve, safest currency. I don't know yet, but currently, no. Japanese yen may be the safest currently. That may be temporary. I don't know. Theoretical, it's practical. For one, many global financial contracts are denominated in US dollar. No, not anymore. Many countries have struggled to maintain a stable currency, use US dollars as their own national currency. Not only that, but they also denominate everything they do in US dollar. And when they have debt, the US dollar is used. When the dollar goes up, their debts go up as well. And that's happened last year. So a lot of these countries are very happy to see a declining dollar because now their nominated debt goes down. 11 countries that include US dollar, Panama, El Salvador. Well, El Salvador is quickly changing. I've already put up a video on that regarding Bitcoin. Zimbabwe, I guess they're doing it for stability because their dollar's no good. And again, this one, I don't know. Panama, I can't say. Okay. Um, Able to gain and maintain special status. US is still the biggest economy in the world by far, maybe by far, but this country is quickly gaining ground. Okay, that's their GDP. Okay, and then Japan, for a country of its size, that's pretty big, 4.9 trillion. As to say, U.S. dollar would take something pretty major like World War II type situation. We are probably living in the most dangerous time right now. I mean, look at the clock, the doomsday clock. What is it? 1 10 seconds away from midnight, which is like the launch of you know what? Uh Uncertainty around the world. US still remains one of the most stable countries there is. I have problems with that statement, but I'm not going to say anymore. See, collapsing are very slim if it did happen. Now, here's the problem with a lot of these US Americans. They're so ingrained in their view of the US and US only. They don't look at rest of the world. They don't look at what the rest of the world is doing. So they think they're the freest country in the world, most prosperous country in the world. You can call that ignorance or you can just basically call it arrogance. I don't know. I have my own opinion on it, but um, everybody's got their opinion. And my opinion don't matter in the blogosphere or whatever you want to call it. Where to get clean water? Really? If you look at Flint, okay, and many other examples, or what to hunt for our dinner. Uh, some of this is very high level. Let's see who wrote this. QAI. So it's a company hiding behind it, not a like you pay money to post an article on Forbes and make it sound like you're legitimate because your whatever service is now on Forbes. It's a pay to play. Um, Currency collapse, investors can see their assets plummet purely on the exchange rate alone. Well, a very, very, very recent example of that is the Silicon Valley Bank and all the other banks that collapsed behind it. Where did a lot of that money go? It went into Bitcoin. That's why Bitcoin suddenly spiked, or it's in the money markets, and that's all issued by the Federal Reserve. So that is still kind of dangerous to have your money there in a wobbly marketplace like the US. I mean, 31 trillion, it's not getting any better. They're not talking about deficit control, any of that. During times of economic political crisis, governments will often restrict the movement of currency in an attempt to limit damage. Yeah, that's true. And they also lock down or take people's money uh, from their account. That's called a bail-in. Currency risk is a really important factor. Anyone looking to invest in assets denominated in risky currency, risky currently right now is the US dollar. And that's why the Japanese yen is used right now as the alternative because it's safe. And that's why it's stronger right now. That again, that's temporary. Currencies can and do collapse, but it's a minor event. It's minor depending upon the country. When a currency collapses, significant economic political event in the country, while we're already leading into it, I think. Not likely an outcome that most countries around the world, particularly true for the US. So this again comes back to either you're highly ignorant or you're really, really, really arrogant. This is down to the US dollar status as a global currency reserve. I think that's going to quickly change. And if you want, I'll give you the hint. Where is it? Right here. This article is Saudi Arabia moves closer to joining the Chinese security club. Okay, that's the pivot point. Okay, that's the pivot point. That's when you start to drive your, in the past, very strong, very loyal ally, and now they're moving potentially to China. And remember, the biggest buyer of U.S. military is Saudi Arabia, or maybe it was, maybe it still is, I don't know. But in the past, military equipment, the biggest buyer of that as a customer was Saudi Arabia, and now they're potentially shifting to China. Turkey may do the same. Okay, I'm going to talk about that um, in another video. For investors, currency collapse can impact their portfolios if they invest globally as they should. Best to protect against this is through, this sufficient diversification is a crock. Okay, uh, gold, Bitcoin, silver. That's not diversifying. You can't just put money in there and expect it to go up when bad things happen because prove it. If you look at the chart for uh, gold, uh, let's see here. If I look at GLD as an example, one of the largest ETFs out there, and I look at Max, look what happened in the price of gold. Okay, so back in 2012, if you're holding on to gold, great. And if you time it wrong, now your investment in gold starts to go down and it goes flat. Meanwhile, there's other and better assets out there that can give you better return. That's what I call opportunity cost because that's money being held in somewhere that's giving you subpar performance. And you could take that same amount of money and put it into something else where you can build wealth with it instead of being so-called locked in to gold. And look at where gold is at now. It's just starting to recover from where it was in 2012. So it took nearly 10, 11 years for it to continue on that trend back in 2012. So any person that follows gold, now, yes, gold as an investment, most likely. But long term, going back to '04, you didn't get any growth at all holding gold. In fact, you had a cost called an opportunity cost holding gold up until, let's say, here, 2019, and it's gone flat, and here you go. So it's all about timing. That's why I do what I do. Anyways, let's go back to the article here. So by having assets spread across different industries and in different currencies, it limits the potential damage of a currency collapse. That's another whole load of BS. Why? Because when you look at the breadth of the S&P, the Dow Jones, those are so-called diverse stocks. Those are diverse industries that they're holding. Or Russell. If you go back to Yahoo, okay, um, it's up today, great, and it's going to be down tomorrow. But from an investment point of view, there's truth to that. But we are entering into a period of very extreme markets. So diversification really doesn't work because actually it does and it doesn't. It's just if you know how to manage it properly, you can probably diversify but most people in their portfolios could be down as much as 20% last year. Now, if that's all they're using as their portfolio for retirement, and they're supposed to be diversified, and they're taking a 20% hit just alone last year, and they're supposed to be fully diversified in that portfolio, why did their entire portfolio take a 20% hit? So therefore, diversification in what this article is saying is not real diversification. You've got to be kind of outside of the stock market or ETFs or equity, we'll call it. But using a stock advisor where, again, I keep saying 90, 95%, maybe as high as 99% of all financial advisors are not beating the market. But who am I? You may be okay making money. But with these kind of concerns of a banking crisis and whatever else ready to blow up, um, and I don't think the U.S. dollar will collapse. I'm not saying that, but what I am saying is just a loan holding U.S. dollar. Anything in U.S. dollars costing you right now because you're losing value against the Japanese yen. If you were to transfer everything you own over to Japanese yen right now, you would be making uh, money. You'd be stable, or Australian dollar. Um, but again, that's temporary, and that's why you're better off to watch your own portfolio personally, and that's important because that's your future. That's what you retire on, and relying on advisors to do that, tough. Anyways, I'm gonna shut up. But as I said, if you come to the end here, just go to this and you want to know more, go to quantlabs.net/book, sign up for my Trade Like a Boss uh, uh, PDF, fill out a form, and you'll get on my email list. We'll leave it at that. Thanks for watching.